All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. All right, today we're going to do a little video talking about special teams priority. This time of year, getting ready for spring football. If you're in a state that has spring football, I think this is the time of year where I think coaches can find some time to work on some things that are important to them in a special teams game without any game plans or time that you may lose during the season when you're trying to find a place to fit special teams in. So we'll take a look at what the priority is or how you look at it as a coach, and I want your opinion on that. All right, so check out some of our partners, GameStrat, sideline replay company we use at Bishop Kenny High School. I've been using them for the last 5 or 6 years. If you're looking for highly reliable, highly affordable, make sure you check out GameStrat. Great customer service. Call them up. They answer all your questions. They get on the phone on Friday afternoons if you have any issues, so make sure you check them out. Dome Hats, which is the headwear company that we use with Play Fast Football at Bishop Kenny High School. Completely customizable online hat builder. You can design your own hat, change the style of the hat, colors. Panels can be different colors, the embroidery, the logos, snapback, fitted, Velcro, change the enclosures on the back, change the bill on the front. If you're looking for completely customizable, make sure you check out Dome Headwear. Baker Sports, which is a company we use for our coaches gear, practice gear, sideline gear, spirit packs for our players, our uniforms are distributed from Baker's. We have some fan stuff that goes through Baker's. Not just in the football world, big in the baseball world, every sport is covered. Great customer service, reliable, trustworthy. Check out Baker Sporting Goods. All right, JustPlay, which is the digital software we use for our playbooks. A lot of our installs, a lot of our team meetings are run through presentation mode. In JustPlay, if I'm going to speak at any clinics or if I do anything on my Patreon side, I always draw using JustPlay. I think it is the best play drawing tool on the market. DifferenceUSA, the ultimate striking machine. You can get thousands of reps. You don't need a partner. Don't have to waste time teaching anybody how to hold a bag. It's just player. All right, DifferenceUSA pad hooks up to any squat rack in your weight room, so perfect for off-season training, working on elbows in, thumbs up, finding different ways to get your guys to strike violently. If you want to strike violently, you need to practice striking violently. Do so with DifferenceUSA. XandOnotebook, all right, which is a they make completely customizable notebooks for your players and your coaches, so your coaches can have them for game plans, right? So you know every week you come in for your Sunday meetings or your game plan meetings and coaches have yellow pads and notes and they're all over the place with where those may be and they try to keep a running track of them. Well, what if you had one spot, completely customizable, your logo, your school colors. In there you've got pages set up for how you want to take notes. You can customize the template that you want to draw on, the note pages next to it, how you want to set it up on each page. So your coaches might be able to have 1 or 2 notebooks for the entire season, and every game plan is in those notebooks, so now they don't have to worry about which yellow pad it was on, where did I put that yellow pad, where did I keep those notes for the game plan. Then after the season you can go back and look. If you're tagging films or if you're looking at what you did week by week, you might be able to go back to your game plan notes and see where it's at. Players can take notes in meetings. Everything we do now is digitally, showing them playbooks and videos and installs on our software, which is JustPlay, or maybe you're using Huddle or whatever you might be using. Now you can ask the players to take notes, give them something to take notes on, completely customizable with your logo. Check out XandOnotebook. So this time of year, all right, and I've been doing this, I've been a coach in Florida for the last 25 years, so we have spring football, and it's usually in the month of May, and that's one of the times that we really try to focus on a lot of special teams work because, you know, let's be honest, as a coach, when we get to the season, we all know how important special teams are, and we've all probably been hurt at some point with poor special teams play, and we're always trying to put an emphasis on special teams play, but when you get into the week and you're trying to make your practice plan, and you're thinking about all the things that you need to cover on offense and defense, and you know, depending on, how your game plan looks that week and how many new things or installs or formation adjustments or blitz pickups, whatever the case may be, it's always a scramble. At least I know for me as a head coach, it was always a scramble trying to find that time that you can do the drills or the coverage units or the game plan stuff and special teams that you want to do, all right, without feeling like you were sacrificing on offense and defense. Now, tough way to look at it, because is it really a sacrifice when special teams is such a big part of the game? Well, to me, the spring is really that time where you can go back and prioritize, and that's why I've got priority up on the board. As a coach, you can prioritize exactly what you want to get done in the spring with your special teams. So maybe you went to a clinic and you saw something that stood out. I know for me it was maybe 10, 12 years ago, or somewhere in that time frame, 8 years ago maybe. And I went to a clinic, and Ferris State spoke about using two punters, all right? They had a two-punter system, righty and a lefty. They both lined up to take the snap. They would snap it to one, and it was a shield deal, and it was a really neat way of adding some spice to your punt game and slowing down punt rushes. Teams didn't know whether it was the right-footed punter, the left-footed punter. They had some really unique and interesting fakes off of it. And I can remember coming back from that clinic, and that to me was a priority in the spring. We were going to spend a lot of time on trying to work with two punters. We were trying to find a left-footed punter. We were trying to find a right-footed punter that could rugby and a left-footed punter that can rugby. And, you know, we were trying to find guys to fit that scheme because I saw it at a clinic, and it was something that I felt was going to be advantageous for us in the special teams world, right? Maybe you're coming off a season. I know we just had Coach McIntyre just did a virtual clinic for me last Thursday, and he spoke about kickoff coverage drills that they had to do because, you know, his first couple years in, they had given up an inordinate amount of kick returns for touchdowns. So what he did was he put a priority on kickoff coverage, and they started coming up with the different drills that they had to do in circuits and other manners in which they did them, and he showed clips of those guys doing those drills and his guys doing those drills. And, you know, maybe it's a certain special team that you've been struggling with, right? Well, the spring is the time for you to go ahead and take a look at those things and say, hey, I want to focus more on drill work. I want to focus more on coverage aspects and how we cover down the field and the drills that we need to do. Or maybe you want to focus more on fielding punts or fielding kicks, right? Maybe the year before you got beat with a bunch of sky kicks or pooch kicks or something along those lines, or you just didn't field punts and the hidden yardage added up on you. Well, the spring is a time for you to prioritize what you want to do with special teams and build it in to your practice plan while there really is no game plan. I mean, eventually we play a game against another opponent. 3 weeks into the spring, we're going to get into a game plan. We're not going to approach the game without a plan, but we're not starting from day one in the spring with a game plan. We're starting with getting better as a football program, right? So that should be a time where when we don't have a dead set game plan with things that we've got to get done on offense and defense in a 3.5 day period, now we should have time to find ways to install or implement all the things we want to implement in special teams. Maybe it's a coverage circuit, right? So maybe it's working, Coach McIntyre called it a stick stack drill. All right, we've been doing it for years. I got it from my buddy who was my special teams coordinator. He was special teams coordinator in the NFL. And it's guys running down and they're going full speed through the speed zone. And at a certain point, someone's going to give them a direction. So a coach or a player is going to turn one way or the other. And the idea of the drill is I've got to stick and cut to the butt, avoid butt side, right? Because on a return, if a guy is showing me his backside, that means he's trying to block me to his front side, right? So I've got to stick, avoid butt side, stack, get back on top, right? Well, maybe that's one drill. And then maybe at another drill, you're working on guys that are butting and pressing. All right, if the ball's 8 or less, I got to butt and press, right? So maybe it's working on bags, or it could be on bodies, however you're doing it. It's guys that are now taking blocks on and working on the block destruction, all right? And the way we've done it a bunch of times in the past is take a block on, separate, ball carrier, all right, disengage, find the ball, make sure everybody disengages to the proper side. Using proper mechanics, then you can build in finishing off that to some type of fitted form tackle, right? So maybe you're doing different circuits in coverage. Maybe you have 5 to 8 minutes of time set aside for returners to field nothing but squibs, pooches, or things that have gotten you beat in the past. All right, maybe you're putting an emphasis on field goal protection. Maybe you need to find a holder, snapper, operating time procedures, trying to get your operating time, whatever it may be. To me, that is what you should be doing a lot of work on in the spring. And you can set your own plan up, right? It's a unique individual thing that you can set up. So to me in the spring, what you need to break down is, are you working more on techniques and fundamentals or the actual schemes, right? Maybe you're changing how you kick off. Maybe you're changing how you punt. Maybe you're going from, all right, pro punt to shield punt. Maybe you're going from shield punt back to pro punt. Okay, so are you keeping all your schemes the same? You like all your schemes, but you're breaking them down into techniques and fundamentals that you got to use. All right, and probably one of the most important things is I think the spring is a time where you should be identifying special teams players. right? So we all get to a point where we don't want to use all our starters all the time. We've got to put our best guys on there, but we've also got to get guys a rest, especially for us in Florida early in the year, 98, 96 degrees at kickoff. Guys have got to be able to get a break. So we're trying to identify special teams players. Maybe it's a young kid that can come up for 6 quarters that we can't really use that much on offense or defense, but he can cover. All right, so those are the things that you should be working on in the spring, right? And then the priority to me now becomes, do we like our schemes? Are we changing our schemes? Or do we need to look at techniques and fundamentals, right? So when Coach McIntyre talked about it, they gave up a bunch of kickoff returns. Maybe you got to change your scheme. Maybe you got to work on the techniques and fundamentals to cover, all right, those kicks. And finding out through film, all right, where are we getting beat here? Is it a speed zone issue? Are we not getting down the field quick enough? Do we not avoid first level? Are we taking on too many blocks first level? Are we running around blocks when we need to be button press, right? So 8 or less, we got to button press. All right, 10 or more, maybe we can close the door, whatever your terminology is, right? Or 10 or more, close the door, 10 or less, button press. So in other words, if the ball carrier is 10 or more away from me, and I'm at that second, third level, now I can try and work around and close the door, stack it again, goes back to the stick stack. All right, but maybe if the ball carrier is inside of 10 and he's 10 or less, I now need to take a blocker on, button press, find the ball, disengage, all right, block, destruct, get to the football. So, all right, so maybe it's doing those things. Maybe it's your punt protection drills. Okay, maybe you're working on maybe the shield component of it. Or if it's pro punt, you're working on guys having to seal inside first while also almost that pass set, that athletic movement back while sealing inside first. Maybe you've got 2 that you've got to handle inside first and get a hand on another guy. Maybe it's working with the wings. Maybe it's working with the personal protector. All right, maybe you're working on fakes in the spring ball. Maybe you haven't been good with your fakes and you're designing fakes. Maybe it's an onside kick deal. You're not recovering onside kicks. You lost the game because you weren't prepared. Whatever the situation dictates from previous seasons, I think that should be the priority in the spring, because we all know that there's going to be a ton of snaps played in special teams, right? But we also know, or anybody that's been a head coach in high school before, we also know that we struggle to find a time during the season to make sure we're doing it appropriately. All right, so hopefully you're at a place that values it where you have special teams meetings. All right, when I was a head coach and I had my guy from, that was an NFL special teams coach and a college special teams coach, I gave him a meeting every day. All right, and we worked the rest of our schedule around that because he showed me the importance of having special teams meetings and being able to teach through film and teach through tape. Okay, so hopefully you're at a place that values that. But in the spring, to me, all right, let's prioritize what you're doing. So when we look at the things on special teams that we're talking about, kick returns and field goals and punt returns and kickoffs and punts, right? Well, normal school of thought for most coaches are the 2 things in the special teams game that get you hurt the quickest are kickoff coverage and punt protection, all right, or punt protection and punt coverage. Those are the 2 biggest momentum changers in the game. So when you go back and look at your games, anytime the other team can flip the field on a kickoff, score points on a kickoff, okay, or you get a punt thumped and that flips the field, okay, or you can't cover a punt, those are 2 of the things that are the biggest momentum changers. So they usually take top priority for most people in their special teams, right? As a kick return unit, if you're struggling as a kick return unit, as long as you are fielding the ball, and I would always tell my kick return units, look, this down has to end with us with the football. That's the number 1 priority. As long as you're fielding the ball and you go back through your analysis and your data from the previous season, if you're not giving the ball up on kick return, all right, well, you're at least ahead of the game. Maybe you're not happy with your kick return unit and you've got to spend time on what you're doing. What is your scheme? Maybe you've got to spend time on the first level guys retreating, finding guys that are athletic enough to retreat but physical enough to take guys on. All right, Coach McIntyre showed a great drill where it was the guys going down to cover and the guys retreating and making it a one-on-one deal. I think we've all done drills like that, trying to make things competitive, trying to keep things competitive. So maybe you're trying to find the right guys. Maybe you're changing your scheme. There was one year where we changed from your traditional walls and setting up those types of returns to we went to a man scheme where everybody had a man and we double teamed one player that we thought was the most important player to be blocked in the kickoff based on how the other team kicked off, and we blocked the man scheme. So the spring we did that, we had to work on what we needed to work on to block those man deals, right? So maybe it's a scheme issue, maybe it's a fundamental issue. But at least in kick returns, if you are fielding the ball, all right, and your returns are lacking, then field position's an issue, your starting point's an issue, but at least you have the ball. Okay? If it's field goals, hopefully you're making extra points. If you find a field goal kicker, a snapper, and a holder, which in high school sometimes can be an issue, if you find those three things and your operating time is good and your field goal kicker can make kicks, that's probably going to be a bigger priority for you. All right? Working and spending time on protection, operating time, getting, the snap to hold the kick where you want it. Well, if you don't have a kicker, field goals sometimes are going to lose a little bit of their priority, because if you can't find a kicker, then you're worried about just making extra points. All right, I played a bunch of teams that go for 2 almost every time because they don't have a kicker. Right? But to me, the thing that you're always probably going to have to prioritize is how effective you are protecting the punter and how effective you are covering kicks. Now, if you don't have a kicker, now you're going to want to spend your time on squibs, skies, pooches, and teaching your guys how you want to not only kick those but cover those, because that's how you're trying to steal some yardage in the field position game. All right, you can't reach the end zone. Your kicker kicks it with not a lot of hang time, and it goes to the 15. And you're figuring out that they're bringing it to the 30, all right, almost religiously, because you can't possibly get down there to cover. The best job you can do is they're going to have the ball at the 30. Well, now you've got to change your scheme. You've got to squib. You've got to pooch or sky. You've got to do some different things, right? So, to me, kickoff and punt are probably 2 of the ones that are always going to take the biggest priority. And then, if we were struggling in a certain area the year before and we felt like it cost us valuable field position, scoring opportunities, well then maybe that spring, all right, it's kind of, to me, it's like a living document. That spring, we're going to focus a bunch on kick return. All right, we lost a bunch of balls on onside and pooches, and we didn't field kicks, and we didn't work on fair catching with the right guys, and maybe we got to identify the right guys. So that would take the priority. All right, maybe we missed a bunch of extra points the year before. Maybe protection was an issue. Maybe snapping was an issue. Well, maybe that'll take a priority. All right, maybe we haven't blocked a punt in 2 or 3 years. Well, maybe that takes a priority. All right, so at some point as a coach, you got to figure out what you want to prioritize. But the thing I will say is spring football is the perfect time to work a ton of special team stuff. Okay, it's going to show up in games. All right, you're going to need it during the season. You want to identify who those players are. You'd like to identify them early. Right, so if you have spring football, that's a chance to really work on all those things. And then to you, for each program and each coach, what it'll come down to is, what do I really want to work on? What do I need to work on? If you were solid the year before and you start with a heavy emphasis on kickoff and punt because those seem to be the 2 biggest momentum changers in the game of football, well, then you start there. If you are lacking in kick returns, maybe you start there. If you haven't generated a punt block, maybe you start there. If guys are getting home, but you don't know how to block punts, maybe you start there with crash pads and taking balls off the feet and running through and working on angles in front of the punter. All right, whatever it may be. But the bottom line is, you have to spend time putting a priority on special teams. And we all know the nature of the beast is we're going to lose time during the season. All right, we all, as much as I want to prioritize special teams, and even when I had a former NFL special teams coach on my staff, I still felt like we were always cutting time from some special teams, or we were rushing through special team stuff to make sure that we got all of our indie and our 7-on-7 and our inside run and our blitz pickup and whatever it may be. Okay, so spring is the perfect time to steal a little bit of that time. All right, focus on special teams. Get everything in without a rush because you're not worried about the time to fit everything in for a game plan. All right, I've been at places where I've seen, all right, and I've watched practices where one day in the spring is a special teams specific day. All right, and that's all they do heavy 75% of the day, and then they touch on some offense, defense so the kids don't forget, or maybe they have an install for the next day that they walk through. All right, but they put a whole day towards special teams. All right, it's important. It's an important part of the game, and it's something that we as coaches have to find a better way to fit in. I think the spring's a great time to do that. Now, whether you choose that it's going to be drills and techniques and fundamentals, and you like your schemes, that's fine. Whether or not you're working on a new scheme like we did a couple years ago when we switched to a 2-punter system or a man return system, okay, maybe it's that. Maybe you're going to a muddle huddle deal and you want to work on your special muddle huddle plays in the spring. Whatever it is, the spring is the opportunity to find time to put a priority on your special teams, and then for you as a coach to prioritize what you want to do with your special teams. All right, so I hope this helps you guys out there, understanding how important special teams are, what I think maybe you could be or should be doing in the spring. All right, next week, next Thursday, we've got John Walford, NFL quarterback, going to be talking about quarterback play on the third part of our Play Fast virtual clinic series. Again, email me, sting8740@gmail.com. if you would like to be in on the John Walford talk. Extremely smart guy, graduated from this high school. I coached against him in high school. Great player, went to Wake Forest. He was actually pivotal in a lot of the things that Wake Forest now does with some of their mesh mechanics. He was also pivotal in bringing an RPO system to one of the teams that he played in outside of the NFL. I think you're going to want to be sitting in on that. I'm going to try and hopefully get him to talk some quicker intermediate spacing passing game, but whatever he talks about will be a bonus. John Walford, NFL quarterback. All right, great guy, unbelievable work ethic. So I think you're going to appreciate that. That is next Thursday, April 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. All right, if you are a subscriber, please turn your notifications on. You know, every time we do a video, every time we go on YouTube Live. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you like or don't like the content. As always, leave a message. Any message that I see, I respond to. If it's a message about a video, I will try and do it. I know somebody left me a message about the difference between inside zone and trap, so I'll see if I can get to that. Somebody else left me a message about talking about your nickels and two-read coverage. Maybe I can get to that. So if I see it, not only will I respond, but I'll try to get to it if I can. So I appreciate everything you guys do for me. Hopefully your year's going well. Hopefully you're getting ready for spring ball or whatever it is your state does with your off-season football stuff. Hope you're all healthy. Again, appreciate everything you do for me. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast, and I will see you guys next time.